I think most people probably have a point in their creative endeavors where you're sort of fed up with the way that other people do things. Whether you're right or wrong isn't really relevant. When I started to think about doing a restaurant at the winery, a lot of it for me was fueled by dissatisfaction with what I saw around me, and I wanted to try doing it differently.
It's good to give people a window into the things that are right in their backyard. People are growing incredible things in this area. And if it changes their mind a little bit, maybe instead of going and buying something conventional, they'll go and support the community of farmers that we have around here. And that's the hope.
The biggest thing for us when we're thinking through the different menus or designing how the food is going to look is to really pay attention to what's happening in nature and what agriculture is telling us, what farmers are telling us, what Deirdre is telling us, what Shane is telling us, and what they're excited about. And then that's sort of where our job as cooks come in, to then get excited about the flavors that can accompany that. That's what drives the deliciousness of the food. And you think we'll end up drying a lot of these?
These ones are so delicate. So I feel like it's probably best to just dry the kind of garden roses that are more deep pink and red.
Yeah.
When I grew up here, this was definitely not something you'd be caught dead doing in Niagara. It was not cool to be just eating random plants.
So welcome to the kitchen's pantry. Restaurant Pearl Morissette is a very interesting ethos and philosophy. Essentially, we're not willing to use ingredients we can't find in our backyard. So they built this area 1 year in advance of the restaurant opening, because in order to be able to pull from the environment to only cook with the ingredients we can find in our backyard, we build the backyard first. We can't use citrus on the menu. So not having citrus available to us, we look to other plants that grow naturally in our area, wood sorrel being one of them. It's quite invasive, but luckily enough that the restaurant really enjoys using it. And this is our sour patch bed, essentially. So within 6 feet by 2 feet, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different ingredients, a few different stages of growth inside of the plant that we can offer up to the restaurant.
The early days, we cold called a lot of farmers around the area, because both Dan and I had only briefly worked back in Canada since gaining experience overseas. And so what we did was just Google organic farms in the area, visit a lot of farmers markets, visit cheesemakers, and then got in the car and drove. And showing up at their farm and saying hey, we have this restaurant that doesn't exist yet. Do you trust us to take on a lot of your product, or whatever you think is best? And they're like, yeah, sure, guys. And I think over time, when they saw we were serious, they're calling us with hey, we have this incredible stuff. Do you want this? Or what can we grow for you guys? Almost 8 years in now, we still work with a lot of those farmers. It's pretty cool.
These grasses are only about this deep rooted. Mm-hmm. And the prairie grasses are 3-4 meters in the ground, right? So they can reach for water. These grasses love it cold and wet. The prairie grass, the native grass, loves it hot and dry. Mm-hmm. So if you put those two things together, this works perfectly in the spring, early summer, and fall. Yeah. And the prairie grass carries them through the drought, the heat of the summer. And both grasses then thrive under those conditions. Yeah.
The great producers that we work with are impeccable observationalists. Consistently just obsessed with some factor of the reality that they really seek to push and experiment with and understand in different ways.
I've been here pretty much my whole life, so I know all the tiny little spots, the back roads, the microclimates, the unusual trees. There's a point at which your interest in what's around you becomes tradition, and I think that people get disconnected from that. We don't have a lot of traditions related to local harvests. I think there's a reason to, get hyped about it and get other people hyped. Those things are really worth celebrating. What's interesting about working with the chefs is that people listen to them and people come to the restaurant very excited. They're already primed that they know they're gonna try something new and engage with local food in a different way. And so the chefs can sort of bring that stuff that I've brought to them to the table and say, this is it, this is what the flavors of Niagara could be.
This has been resting for almost a year. And it's going to be there for another one at least, for what we can tell now. And then we'll see. We don't know, we assist, right? Concept of assisting is not getting in the way as much as possible, which is a very hard thing for humans not to get in the way. When this whole thing started 18 years ago, the common vision between Pearl and I was to establish something that would be a beacon, to allow people to be who they are. So we've tried to do the same with every single aspect of Pearl Morissette, whether bakery, whether garden. Anytime we brought in people, they were encouraged to do what they're inspired to do at best, without compromise.
Similar to working with the farm at the restaurant, same as working with any sort of artisan or creator, we pretty much select and then trust their opinion, given say this is what we're looking for, and then here's an idea, this is how we're going to be using it, but just run with it.
The purple would be in the bottom layer, and then the titanium's on the top layer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
We definitely have to do a plate like that in the future.
Yeah, totally.
I think that's the way the best collaborations work, is that we have this dialogue, but it's very much us trusting in, and selecting incredible people, incredibly talented people to work with, and then it goes from there.
In order to maintain inspiration with the landscape, with what's directly in front of us, I think is to continually engage with it. Go on a hike, go foraging, go visit farms, go walk out in the garden. Our menu changes all the time. The nature of those ingredients change all the time. You need to leverage and work with all sorts of different personalities in farmers and gardeners and sort of navigate all of that.
Can we test the texture of these on the plate first before we pack them up?
I feel like a great sense of admiration for the people that are willing to do that and really drive themselves through it. And that for me is something that I just don't take for granted at all. I find it to be incredibly special.
Nice curing on the fish, Nathaniel. Now for Sunday, if they just don't do that though.
That's fucking great. And when I hear team members talk about the environment or the work they do or what they get excited about, I find myself learning from that.
Savka service.
In the bakery, the flour that we use is always different, and that's really novel for most bakers. The large majority of people are going to perceive that as a huge pain in the ass and something they don't want to deal with. And instead, people have to be wildly excited by that. Curiosity is a big part of that. Open-mindedness is a big part of that. But certainly, fascination with what's in front of them. The inherent purpose of the restaurant is to delight and entertain, but also to immerse people in a perspective. Let's strive towards breathlessness. I try to think about things really pragmatically. And when I get locked into the logic of something, you gotta show me an alternative to make me believe otherwise. And in this case, I've yet to be shown a viable alternative that I think in any way contends with eating in this way, or serving people in this way, or operating this way, or training others to sort of work and think in this way. There's beautiful things growing around us that are underrepresented, and they require a place to go. Let's put them somewhere and do something cool with that.